Hello, I am Majid 2006. Welcome to the channel What We Are Why. 12 major signs you're in an abusive relationship. There are a number of red flags to look for if you think you may be in an abusive relationship. Some abusive relationships begin as toxic relationships, and you may not recognize the toxic traits until they become abusive. It's also important to consider the cycle of abuse you may be in if there has been a pattern of abuse and then reconciliation, as abusers tend to create these cycles to keep their victims submissive. Here's the deal, I am going to share with you my own experience and show you the signs you're in an abusive relationship. Signs of an abusive relationship might include feeling that you deserve the mistreatment from your partner and justifying your partner's abusive behaviors. If you find yourself in an abusive relationship, remember that it is not your fault and you do not deserve to be treated poorly. It is important to seek help immediately and to stay away from your abuser. You don't have to go through this alone. Abigail Gordon, PhD, clinical psychologist. Most people expect to feel scared or angry when in an abuse situation, but the reality is much more complex. You might feel both of those things, but usually an abusive situation is maintained by the fact that you also feel deep love and a sense of intimacy and closeness. You might feel like your abuser is the only person who loves or protects or understands or appreciates you. That's part of what makes it so hard to even think about leaving. I know how hard it is to walk away from an abusive relationship, but there are so many outlets for help. Whether it is friends, a therapist, helplines, or family, people care. Just remember that. On the flip side, if you are reading this and do a lot of these behaviors to someone you are in a relationship with, maybe you should reevaluate some things. This doesn't just go out to girls, guys are included as well. These are the signs you're in an abusive relationship both sexes should know. Not all abusive relationships are physically violent. In fact, emotional abuse within relationships is even more common than physical abuse. And it's harder to recognize, because it can masquerade as an intense form of love and devotion. An abusive relationship often seems incredibly passionate and romantic at first, and then gradually descends into manipulation and cruelty. What is considered abusive behavior? An abusive relationship, also known as domestic violence, intimate partner violence, or dating abuse, involves one partner attempting to cause physical, sexual, or psychological harm to the other. This can encompass a wide range of behaviors. In cases of psychological abuse, also known as emotional abuse, the abuser uses words and actions to frighten, control, and isolate their partner. Emotional abuse includes the following categories and signs of abusive behavior: humiliation, insulting, criticizing, name-calling, embarrassing the other person in public, belittling their accomplishments, posting unflattering photos or videos of them on social media. Control, acting jealous and possessive, monitoring the other person's behavior, reading their texts and emails, demanding all their time and attention, pressuring them to use drugs or alcohol, using social media to track their activities, trying to control who they follow on social media. Blaming and gaslighting, accusing the other person of cheating, denying abusive behavior or blaming it on the victim, claiming their problems are the other person's fault. Neglect and isolation, refusing to communicate, turning other people against the victim, withholding affection, preventing the other person from seeing friends or family. 12 signs of an abusive relationship. Psychologically or mentally abusive relationships are especially insidious because the victim becomes accustomed to their partner's behavior, thinks it's normal, and has started to believe what their abuser says about them. If you think you or a loved one might be in this situation, consider whether one or more of these 12 signs of an abusive relationship are present. 1. You don't feel free to make your own choices. The other person tells you how to dress and how to act, tries to control who you spend time with, and keeps track of where you go and what you do all the time. 2. He criticizes you. If you are walking around feeling belittled and less than, this is a sign you are in an abusive relationship. The person you are with is supposed to build you up, be your biggest support, and if all they are doing is bringing you down or making you feel less than, this is not the person for you. Someone who is constantly negative about you, and what you do, is abusing you. This is something that doesn't just go away when talked about, it is something that continues to get worse, and sooner or later you begin to believe them. Trust me. 3. You feel like everything that's wrong with the relationship is your fault. Emotional abuse often includes convincing the other person that they need to be criticized and told what to do because of their poor behavior, and if they were better, there wouldn't be a problem. 4. You've forgotten what you used to be like before the relationship. You spend so little time on your own, doing things you care about, or spending time with close friends that you don't remember what it felt like to be a strong and independent person. 5. Control issues. There are a lot of people who are controlling, and by all means, I get you all so well. It actually can be a great quality to have. I am one of these people, but being with someone who is controlling in an excessive degree is abusive. Let me give you some examples. Having someone tell you who you can and cannot be friends with. Having someone who needs to know all the passwords to your life and able to read your phone at any time. These are all not normal relationship behaviors. These are major control issues that you should not put up with. 6. Your disagreements turn into screaming fights. Rather than being productive, arguments escalate into yelling and insults that may feel threatening and scary. 7. Insecurities. I have a friend in a relationship with someone who constantly freaks out when they get in a tiff and threatens to commit suicide in order for her to not break up with him. Sometimes, the abusive part of a relationship isn't being a heartless asshole. It is also someone who is so insecure they are trying to manipulate you in any way to stay with them. Being with someone who is constantly freaking out over a guy liking your social media photo, or a text on your phone, or a random Snapchat that pops up, are not normal behaviors. Insecurity and jealousy are a very serious problem in relationships, but when they are so deep that the person's tactics are threatening to harm themselves, that is abuse. 8. You're always apologizing. You're afraid of how your partner may react, so you apologize for your actions, even if you're not sure what you're sorry for, in order to head off their anger and accusations. 9. You never know which version of your partner you're going to get. They're hot and cold by turns, sometimes withdrawn or insulting, and then drawing you back in by being suddenly attentive and loving. 10. Your partner love bombs you. They try to make up for abusive behavior with exaggerated compliments, extravagant gifts, or telling you they can't live without you. 11. You don't talk about the relationship with friends or family. You avoid discussing the other person, minimize their abusive behavior, or make excuses for it if your friends or family members call it out. 12. You've lost confidence in your own perspective. You've been told so many times that you're wrong, stupid, or crazy that you've started to believe it. The mental health consequences of being in an abusive relationship. Abusive relationships take a heavy toll on an individual's self-esteem, self-worth, well-being, and sense of autonomy. The mental health consequences can include depression, anxiety, suicidal thoughts, and feelings of shame and guilt. In addition, abusive relationship PTSD may lead to similar symptoms as other types of PTSD, flashbacks, social withdrawal, difficulty concentrating, chronic pain, and insomnia. In a study of young adults, ages 18 to 25, female participants who had experienced relationship abuse as teens reported more heavy drinking, depressive symptoms, suicidal ideation, and smoking, as compared to study participants who had not been abused. Male participants who had been victims of abuse reported increased antisocial behaviors, suicidal ideation, and marijuana use. Moreover, both young women and young men who had experienced abuse were more likely to have been in more than one abusive relationship. Once an individual adapts to being victimized and starts to believe they deserve to be treated this way, they may return to this pattern in relationships until they take action to stop the cycle. How to leave an abusive relationship. Making the decision and plan to leave an abusive relationship can seem very scary and difficult even though the way you are being treated is unacceptable. You may have your finances and housing intermingled, which can be hard to separate. You may be experiencing trauma bonding as well, making the idea of leaving even more challenging. You may also be so isolated from friends and family that you don't know how to contact anyone for support. You are not alone and you're brave for taking steps to leave a toxic relationship. Gordon cautions, if you are thinking of leaving an abusive relationship, you need to have a safe place to go, a safe way to get there, car keys, gas money, bus fare, and a clear plan. You also want to have access to important documents like your passport or birth certificate, insurance cards, or car registrations. Keep those in one place so you can grab them easily. If you can, try to build up some money that you have secure or job skills you can use once you're safe. Once an abusive relationship is over, it's important to take steps to repair the damage it has done to one's self-worth, self-confidence, independence, and ability to trust others. Recovering from emotional abuse begins with acknowledging that the abuse took place, rather than minimizing or denying it to yourself. The next step is to start changing the mental patterns that are linked to abuse. That includes shifting negative thoughts and beliefs, such as thinking the abuse was all your fault, that you will never be in a healthy relationship, or that you could have done something different that would have prevented the abuse. In addition, Healing from an emotionally abusive relationship involves honoring your own needs and desires by doing what you love and what makes you truly happy. That includes cultivating authentic connections with trusted friends who have your best interests at heart, and practicing self-care to rebalance the nervous system after the chronic stress of an abusive relationship. Now, if you want to be successful in romantic relationships and know more, subscribe to my channel. I made many tutorials for you. I will kiss you, my dear.